straight away. All right. Let me say good afternoon officially. It's nice to have you with us. Permit me to just roll out what your CV looks like to some of our audience who are just joining us. Seyi Olofinjana, Seyi George Olofinjana, holds a UEFA license, UEFA A, UEFA B license. He's also read in PFA governance course. He's also got emergency first aid. He's got a master's degree. You know, he's just a whole lot. He's got UEFA Pro license as well. FA child protection and best practice. I would also go over his university degree. He's got BTech in chemical engineering from Ladoke Akintola University, and then masters in project management from Robert Gordon University, masters in sport directorship from Manchester Metropolitan University. For a footballer, how are you able to do this? Because this sounds very, very interesting.
Well, first and foremost, I give glory to God for the grace to have been able to do it. But ultimately, my goal in life has always been that where there's a will, there's always a way. I'm being from an academic family. I think my football story is a little bit different compared to my colleagues. Education has always been the forefront of anything I do with my family. As a matter of fact, my mom and dad never wanted me to play football. Everything was all about the education, because for them, when you've got an education, you find a very, very good opportunity, like anyone else, of living a very, very good life. My mother wanted me to be a medical doctor. My dad wanted me to do accounting. But I knew there was no way I was playing football with medicine. So medicine was, for me, was always a no-no. But again, in the end, I had to go my way. I love engineering. Nigeria is blessed with oil, so why not chemical engineering? Hence, my going into chemical engineering. Well, with regards to football, did I think I was good enough? No. Of course, I knew I had a bit of talent, but the destination was never for me to sort of think I was going to become a professional football player someday, and then begin to sort of have a career in football. So education has always been the forefront of everything I've planned to do in my life. So football came in. Football was always secondary. And when I got to Europe after my BTech, I thought to myself, you train for 2 hours, why don't you do something else and begin to look after football, life after football itself?
Interesting. While you were in Nigeria, can you let us in on your background? Were you playing football while you were from secondary school? How did this football thing start for you? Because I'm sure that some parents are watching right now. They want to hear from you. A lot of parents discourage their kids from playing football. Can you let us in on your background from maybe probably secondary school, university, up to the level of playing locally, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I have got a very, very, what's the word now? Very, very normal, I would say, childhood like me, like every other normal kid in Lagos, in Kwara State, in Oyo State, all over Nigeria. You start from picking oranges on the street while you go to school and all that. So go to school, play football with my colleagues in school, play for the odd, local clubs, inter-street, the Principals Corp and all those things, which is normal for every young kid to sort of look forward to and play football that way. So that was it really. But my professional football career started rather from when I went to university. I think Lagos, because of the influx of talent we have in Lagos, sometimes we don't get the full benefit of having the best come out of Lagos, if you know what I mean. If I'd gone to school in Lagos, if I'd gone to Unilag, you might not be speaking with me today. Because I say to a lot of people, Seyi Olofinjana is Seyi Olofinjana today, not because I was the best player, not because it's God's grace to start with, and again with a lot of hard work. But again, that hard work then met an opportunity which God gave me the opportunity to sort of take. So if I had not gone out of Lagos to play football, the talent in Lagos is unbelievable, by the way. I play with some wonderful players that I'm not able to lace their boots. And unfortunately, they didn't make a good way out of football. But that's life. So going back to your question, I had a very, very normal childhood like any kid. But that transition came when I went to Bomosho to go to school. I started playing for Crown FC, which is in the Bomosho where I went to school. And lo and behold, Kwara United came knocking on the door. I had offers from Eyimba and all those other bigger clubs at the time, but I wasn't able to leave because I was studying, and education was always going to be the first thing.
So I assume you grew up in a family where the parents are always very interested in, you must go to school. For me, I grew up wanting to play football professionally, but I played for the Pepsi Football Academy. Even after I played for my university, Olabisi Obanjo University. I played in some university competitions. Right? But I mean, what it means is that you have a background of parents who are mostly interested in football. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Very, very correct. Like me, like every African parent, I'll say, the onus is on us to, well, the emphasis has always been for our kids to go to school, which I mean, I would not knock that any day, even though parents these days are encouraging their kids to play football because of all the benefits and what have you that came with it. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. You either go to school or you go to school. Every other thing you did was just on the periphery. I will sneak my boots inside my bag, my lesson bag, and I'll go to lesson. Don't get me wrong. I still went to lesson because my parents would ask me when I get back home. But after that lesson, from that 7:30 to 8:30 before it gets dark, there's always some kickabout going on.
Yeah.
So that was the love we had for the game then.
Interesting. So could you share with us? Let's leave a little bit of education for now, and then move to how did it all begin? Let us in on how you moved to Europe. Which club did you move from? How was it like? Because what we do as Footballers Connect is try to educate young footballers generally, who think, I just want to travel out of Nigeria and then everything is going to be fine. But the truth is, they're also in Europe as well. So let us in on how the journey to Europe began.
Again, everything. My story is very, very unique, and I'm not sure it's a very, very footballing story if you know what I mean. Again, very, very fortunate, very, very blessed to have had the career I've had to start with. I was telling the story about how I got to school in Bomosho, played for Crown for a couple of years, and afterwards I moved to Kwara United. I was in the Premier League at the time, playing in the CAF competition, played with some wonderful players. I'll go to school I'll go to school early in the morning, then I'll go to training. Ilorin to Bomosho was about 30 minutes. So and I had to sort of commute on a daily basis. So I go to school and I go to train, and I go to schools and I go to train. When football is on holiday, school is on. And when school is on holiday, I've got to go and make up the time in football. So I rarely came to Lagos. So because something is always happening, that was the price I had to pay. Anyway, on the back end of finishing my degree in school, I had this wonderful opportunity as given to me by President Chukwu to come into home base Eagles to come and train, and that was how the story all started. So that was year 2000. I played very, very briefly. I played for the national team, then to the Super Eagles. Prior to that, I'd been to a few camps with the under-20s and the under-23s, but I never really played any games, just in and out of camp and what have you. But when I went for the Super Eagles trial, Christian Chukwu took a liking to me straight away. Ably assisted by Austin Iguavon at the time. And they saw something in me. Prior to that time, believe it or not, I have always played as an offensive midfield player. I never played defensive midfield. But because you had the likes of your JJ or Kocha, you had your Kanus, you had your Rumas, and you had all these guys with flair, Christian Chukwu converted me to a defensive midfield player. That was how defensive midfield started for me. So a lot of guys that knows me, that played with me, would have been wondering, what's going on? How is this guy able to sort of cope with playing defense? Because I never did. I've always played as your number 10 or number 8, if you like. So at times I played as a centre forward. Anyway, as God would have it, I was a few months in camp, and there was this opportunity from Norway. And in SK Bergen, initially I was a little bit like, I'm not sure. Norway, I've never had any good football being played in Norway before. It was a January window. I was to go to Anderlecht. Of course, to go to Anderlecht, it was snowing heavily. The plan was for me then to come back home and then come again in June, because they had seen me play for the national team, so they knew about me already. But agents being what agents are, he didn't want me to go back home because he might miss the opportunity, especially coming from Nigeria. Anybody could hijack the next thing that's happening in Super Eagles. So he wanted something to happen. As God will have it, just to fast forward very, very quickly, the Norwegian window was still open till February rather than end of January. So they said, why don't we take you to Norway? Well, we know it. And that was how the whole thing started. I went to Norway, did the trial for 3 days. Straight away, they liked me, and that was how I signed in Norway. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Very interesting, Johnny. Quickly, can you let us in? I see from your CV that at some point you were a player, you were an officer, and then before you became the loans and pathways manager. Tell us not briefly, what the role is like. What exactly does the role entail?
Okay, before I answer that question, I'll go back a little bit because with everything in life, there's supposed to be a plan. What's the big picture? What is the medium goal? And what's the goal at the moment? I consider myself a very, very private person. As a matter of fact, I retired from football because of the fame in football. I didn't like to be famous. The guys that know me very well will tell you that much about me. I love me, my family, my life separate. You'll never hear anything about me in the media. No. That doesn't happen to Seyi Olofinjana. I'm too blessed to mess up. That's how I see my life. So I've on the back end of my retirement, the plan has always been to go into the oil industry. As a matter of fact, I got a deal in Norway to start with an oil company. But last minute, something just changed my mind. I want to be in football. I would not have dedicated this number of years to football. Nigeria would not have given me so much in football and not be able to give something back to the next coming generation, especially because I thought I had something special. It's not every day you see an ex-football player, professional football player that's played in the Premier League, unfortunate to have played in the Premier League, have those things on their CV. So how can I then help the next generation of players? Now, how? Then I know what to do now. Is now the how. I don't want to be a coach. The coaching field is saturated. Everybody wants to coach these days, so that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But how can I influence things? I want to be the sporting director. I want to be the CEO. I want to do what Mike Emenalo and the other guys are doing at the top of the organization now. What are the steps I need to take? To do that, I will need to be very, very good with recruitment. I will need to be very, very good with the loan system. I will need to be very, very good with coaching. I will need to know a little bit about medicine. I will need to know all the pillars that holds a football club together. Because the role of the sporting director is such that you are the link between the hierarchy, the owners of the football club, and the operational side of it. So they give you all the budget, they give you all the what they want, and you then filter it down to those guys. But if you haven't got a clue what it looks like, how do you then begin to sort of disseminate those information to your subordinates? Hence the learning. That's why I did a bit of coaching. That's why I did a bit of recruitment. That's why I'm doing loans now, because with loans, it gives me an opportunity to do contracts. It gives me an opportunity to do recruitment. It gives me an opportunity to speak to the sporting director on a daily basis to know what he's doing so that I can learn. So it's a journey.
Wow. This is getting very interesting. For me, so I recently took a course in scouting, but this is talent identification that I recently did. And then someone asked me, Amos, why are you taking the course? I said, don't worry. I understand where I'm going to. And I like the fact that you were able to have foresight. You knew where you were going to. So you took it, said, okay, this is my step. This is where I need to go. So I've got some guys in Canada, in Germany. They're studying they're doing their studies in masters, like MSc in sport management and different sport courses. So I'm glad that you're opening up and then you're telling them the steps. Like you're opening up to them what exactly you consider needful in the journey. So I just want to quickly ask: was it that you didn't like the oil money? Because this decision you made, like, I mean, there's a lot of money in oil. Why keen interest in football? Why did you have to return to football?
Well, I believe we all have a purpose in life. To have been, the initial thought was always been to sort of study chemical engineering, probably do a master's degree, and then go into the oil industry or wherever my life takes you, whatever God wants it to be, and then continue to live your life. And I've always carried that at the back of my mind while I played. But when I made that decision to sort of stay in the football industry, it was more to do with how can I influence things, how can I use what God has given me to then begin to help the next generation, like I said earlier. If I'd gone into the oil industry, I'd be one of so many. As a matter of fact, I'll be a few years behind because guys my age will have started at 20 and I'm 30-something. playing catch up. So yes, you make a lot of money in the oil industry because of course there's loads of money in there, but there are purposes in life. There are things we must do to sort of help ourselves. Somebody helps me. Somebody gave me a chance. Why would I not then give so many the opportunity I've been given, especially with what I know now, do even a little bit better with a bit of twist on it.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to do a quick shout out to some guys that I'm seeing online and some people who have made it possible. Oluwashino Kelechi, thank you so much. He's the one who made this very possible.
That's the big boss.
You know, he's the big boss. Boss, we see you. Thank you so much. We're all learning from this. Okay, so let's move into your role now. So we are all watching the Premiership, right? We all see what goes on in the Premiership in terms of player movement, in terms of player transfer, loans, and everything. For me, my curiosity is who determines the terms? Am I, as the player, to say, oh, I want to go on loan, or is it the club who determines player you have to go on loan, or is it the agent who exactly makes the decision?
Well, it's not a one-cap-fits-all. It's sometimes collective. It's sometimes certain things happen within the football club that means players go out on loan. Now, the first question should be, why loan? If a player goes through the academy, for example, if it's an academy player, some of those guys have been with us since ages 10, under 10, under 12, and they grow with the football philosophy and football education up until the time they get to 18. 16 to 18, they do normal education. But after 18, when they move to the 23s, that's where the gap is between actually playing first team football, either for Wolverhampton Wanderers or for any club for that matter, or going out on loan and then finding a career for themselves. So why loan? Why? I have playing in the first team now. I have Neves. Now I have a very, very good under 23 player. I won't mention names now, who is not up to Neves' standard, who is not ready to play for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Are we going to continue to wait until Ruben Neves leaves Wolverhampton Wanderers before he begins to have his career? So that's why we need to go out on loan. Now you've played 23 football for the first year, you've played it for the second year. We don't want them to be too comfortable in that environment because take it or leave it. Under 23 football in England is still academy football. And when you're turning 18, 19, it's a crucial year for you to then begin to make sure you go and find a career in a first team environment, not within the academy. For the very, very good ones that have the space to go to the first team, that's what the academy is there for. So it's not every player that needs to go out on loan. Morgan Gibbs-White in my Wolves team, for example, he's never had a loan before. He's gone straight from the academy. He's been in the academy since age 9. Now he's 19, 20 or thereabout, and he's playing for the first team. So it's not a one-cap-fits-all scenario. So now who determines when to go to that loan is a collective effort. First and foremost, we speak to the player. We're not... we're dealing with human beings, and we have to be very, very careful. The last thing you want to do is start negotiating somebody's deal behind his back. What if he turns around and says he doesn't want to go?
Yeah.
Players and human beings have a lot of rights in this part of the world. It's not sometimes the way we do it back home. It's got to be authoritative, and you do this or is this way or the highway. No. It doesn't work that way. We speak to the player, we speak to the agent, we have a conclusion. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the right time to do it? Okay, if it is this, where does he go? If it's a player we value so highly that we think he's going to come back and play for the first team, then where he goes matters. Because the education he's going to get must conform with what we do at the football club, as monitored by myself, being the loans manager, to make sure he acquires the knowledge he needs to acquire, play as many games, such that when he comes back, he fits into the system. If he's a very, very good player that we don't think will play for the first team, the onus is still on us as a football club to find a football career for that player. Now, where the player goes is still very, very important, but he might not necessarily go to a club that plays our system because we're trying to find a career for the player.
And then, so let me put this first. Now I have a player. Wolves have this player, and then they loan him, let's say, to a club in Norway. Who pays the salary? I'm just being straight here. I'm throwing the question out straight, just in a layman's language.
Yeah.
Who pays the salary?
Well, again, it's not a one-cap-fits-all type of scenario. It depends. It depends on so many things. For example, if it was a young player, we have very, very good goalkeepers at Wolves that are 16-year-olds, that are 17-year-old, that are 18-year-old. you will agree with me, I'm sure you know a lot about football. Goalkeepers get very, very good and command first team when they begin to turn 26, 27, the older. But for the young ones, sometimes they need education. So they go on what is called a youth loan. When you send a young goalkeeper to go to a non-league where they're going to rough him up, they're going to smash him up, because sometimes when they play in the academy football, everything is on the grass, ping it here and there, and it's all looking neat and tidy. In the real world, in the real football world, it's not like that. They need that education at a very, very early age. So sometimes, if there's no quick pathway for them, we do send them out on loan. A lot of the time, if they are minors, we're very, very careful. We don't send them too far. We send them to lower league clubs where they can, a lot of the times, play for a part-time team that trains twice a week, and the rest of the week they stay with us, so we can monitor them. It's going to be the first time you're going to be going out on loan, so that care, that welfare package is going to be good for them. Now, for these senior players in the first team that need to go out on loan, it depends. Sometimes we say if the player is really, really, really good, and the desire to have the player is from the club, we might say you have to pay all his wages. We don't want the player to go. You have asked for him. You pay all the wages. That is a first-team player, very, very good player. Now, if it's an academic player that is young, we want to give the opportunity to, and we are the one picking the phone to speak to the club, then the club will say, well, even if they want the player, they will pretend not to. Okay, but if you want the player, then okay, we'll split it into 50-50. So you pay 50% of his wages, we pay 50% of his wages, and so it depends. It depends. As a matter of fact, for the senior players, if they are good enough and they're going to club, we don't only let the loaning club pay their full wages. We get what is called a loan fee as well. You pay us a fee for taking the service of the player. So it's just like anything you're selling. It depends on who wants to buy. It depends on the availability, the supply and demand, basically.
Interesting. So at what point then does the player says go, or at what point do you determine when the player is ready to return? Is it the player who says, I feel like I want to return to my parents' club, or is it the club that says, it's time for you to go back? What happens in between? Let me paint a scenario. Let's say the player, his loan contract is not yet completed. Probably there's a situation that warrants that, I want to return to, he's having problems, personal problems, and he feels like I want to return to my parents' club. Is that possible?
It is possible and it is not possible. It is possible because the window allows for it to happen. Number one, it depends on what is signed. So, for example, if I send a player to a League One club and it's supposed to be there for a season-long loan, for example, it's supposed to be there from the start of the season to the end of the season. I will put something in there that he can return in January if things are not going well. So I can recall the player. Maybe we think he's going to pay a certain number of games between August that he leaves and December. But if that doesn't happen and we're not happy, we will put a clause in there that we can bring him back. But the player can then not turn around to me in November and tell me he wants to come back, because under FIFA law, that's not allowed. So that's why I said it's a yes and it's a no. Yeah. But if it's going well, we can say, okay, there's no need to bring you back. You're doing very well. Continue on loan, and then let's see how things develop. Within all this loan as well, it's a lot of things that needs to happen. The coaching, we need to monitor and speak to the manager once a month to see how the players are doing. Speak to the player regularly, because if you're not careful, the player will tell you a certain story. But if he knows you're speaking to the manager, if he knows I'm supposed to be reporting to the manager of the football club, the academy manager, and the sporting director on every Monday with all the report of how all the players are doing, because you don't just send these players on loan. I go every weekend to go and watch them play. So I could be going to a League One club this week. I have a rota that I go to watch different games within England and even outside of England.
I see a very interesting question here from someone. Roch. He says, Taiwo Awoni is your boy. What's the situation regarding his loan? Was one of the best in Belgium last year. Would you like to share some more light on Taiwo Awoni? Because he's supposed to be a Liverpool player, and then he's barely spent time with Liverpool. There's a lot of talks going on around the area. People don't understand what it means. What his situation is exactly. So everybody's just running about with assumptions. But we don't want to assume that's how we're connecting with somebody like this. So we'd like to understand some more.
Thankfully, you're speaking to the right person. I, with a few colleagues of mine, did the transfer of Taiwo Awoni to Liverpool. And it was on the proviso that Taiwo begins to work to get his work permit I'm sure we all know what work permit is all about. To qualify, you must have played a certain number of games for your country, for the first team, grade A games, and that gives you the opportunity and the work permit scenario to allow you take that step. Kelechi was very, very lucky only because he was the MVP of the tournament they went into. It was on that proviso that he qualified to sort of come in. Indeed, and as we all know, play for the Super Eagles. He's been in Belgium before he then had the opportunity to sort of return. Taiwo has been a little bit unfortunate because he plays in a very, very special position, being a centre forward. Yes, he did well in Belgium, but as soon as Taiwo Awoniyi got released to Liverpool, transfer, there's only so much we can do. It's just me at Wolves now with what I do. Having signed a player at Wolverhampton Wanderers, the onus on what we do with the player resides with the football club, of course, and the player. So Taiwo did very well. He's still going to go on loan. He hasn't got his work permit. Rather than return to Belgium, let's push him a little bit higher. The German league is a lot better than the Belgian league. Hence the movement to Mainz in Germany. Unfortunately, things are not working out at the moment. But again, it's part of what we do, even with this loans job, because things don't have to be too rosy for younger players. I'm not saying in Taiwo's case, things shouldn't work out well for them. But people want to test you to see what you're like when you're not playing. Are you doing extras? Are you fighting? Because that's what life is all about. Things is not going to be rosy for you all the time. Somebody has put the pen to paper to then say you're going on loan and you're supposed to play 45 games. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Things change, injuries will happen, managers will get sacked, another one will come in, and you're tied to a contract. How do you respond to it? Are you going to fold? Or are you going to embrace it and then work a little bit harder to fight for your place? So it's not in a good place at the moment. But again, I would rather have him in the German Bundesliga, learning again with the best players in there than play Belgian football. Because with respect, I think the German Bundesliga is a better league than the Belgian league.
So, okay, I just want to throw a tricky one now. You just made mention of the German Bundesliga being a better league compared to the Belgian league. How would you rate the German Bundesliga versus the Premiership?
The Premiership is the best league in the world.
Because your team plays there?
No. Well, maybe I'm a little bit biased, maybe. But again, it's what everyone is alluding to. Fortunately, for me, I played in the Premier League. Unfortunately for me, I've not played in the Bundesliga, but I've been to Germany. I've been to watch games a lot of times. A lot of the German players want to come and play in the Premier League. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Okay, so someone just popped in a question. Drewy, he says, Bright is with Wolves. What is the situation with him?
Bright Enopakari is one of the most talented players, Nigerian players I've ever come across. But again, unfortunately, lacks understanding, lacks discipline. I don't want to be talking about Bright on this forum. I don't think it's fair to sort of assassinate his character in a way. But for discipline, he should be playing for Wolverhampton Wanderers first name on the team sheet every week. I won't say more than that.
Interesting. So let's delve towards another water now. So how have you been able to manage yourself? Because we see these things like ex-internationals after playing football. Some people are not in a very good state. How have you been able to manage yourself from translating from professional football down to this level where you are? How were you able to do it? What exactly was it?
When you say life after football, are you talking finances now? Or are you talking
No, I'm not talking finance. Generally, like you, where you are right now, a lot of people would want to be here, this position where you are. You covet this position, but they're just not here. Many people maybe they didn't make enough plans, but what's the recipe? What exactly works for you? What would you say works for you? How were you able to do it to get to this position?
I think the first thing I said initially was that this is not a typical football story. I'm one of the very, very rare one, even if I say so. But I say that from a very, very blessed position, not because of anything I've done or any preparations I've been able to sort of put forward. God has a way of sort of helping us, all of us, if we are open to learning and if we let Him. That I'm here speaking to you. Forget about all this English I'm speaking at the moment. This is a man that is enjoying God's grace. Because everything looked very much like I planned it, and you go to school and you do this and you then play football. No. It didn't work that way. It was just a stepwise thing. But with that every step, I wanted to do something. I was more afraid of my life after my football career than when I was playing. When I was playing football, as a matter of fact, I surrounded myself. We testify to what I'm saying. I surrounded myself with a lot of non-footballing friends. Not because I don't like my football friends, but the football industry is a bubble. Yeah. It makes you want to live a certain lifestyle that is not in conformity to the rest of the world. And that's why I couldn't wait to finish. Because my principle then was, my life does not start until I finish playing football. Because that's when I go into the real world. And I was very, very conscious of it. I was very, very afraid. Hence my studying, hence my doing everything I can at the time to make sure I prepare myself for life after football.
So I've got someone from Canada. He's a student in Canada. He's studying masters in sport management. So he says his name is Olumide Fakino. How will the youth development going to be affected by the coronavirus so far? How will the youth development be affected? Is there going to be, is the effect of coronavirus, the after effect, is going to affect youth development once this is all over?
I think the coronavirus is not just going to affect football, it's going to affect a lot of things in the world we live in at the moment. I've never done so many conference calls in my life. As a matter of fact, I wonder why we go to meetings face to face when we can have all these gadgets and we can have all these things, do what we need to do, and then stay in the confinement of our houses and then make things happen. Now we're talking, we might not be having this conversation, but for this virus thing. But when it comes to football, yes, it's going to have a major effect, not just on youth football, on football generally. I personally think it's going to affect the financial situation. Players are going the finances for players are going to change drastically. What it's going to look like, I don't know. But again, with the meetings we're having, with a lot of talks that is going on at the moment, there's going to be massive changes.
Interesting. So let me take my question now, and then guys, please, you can drop your questions. Our chief is still here with us. So my question is on the Super Eagles now. How was your time with the Super Eagles? How would you rate your time? Is it compared with what is going on in the Super Eagles? How would you rate it? Then let us know.
I'm going to be a little bit selfish. Can I, please?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I think I was very, very privileged to have played with the players I played with in the Super Eagles. I mean, I had Isaac Okoronkwo, I had Taribo West, I had Yobo, I had George Abe on the right, I had Taiwo on the left, I had myself in the middle of the park, I had JJ, I had the coach, I had Yakubu, I had Agawa, I had Martins. So that squad, for me, underachieved massively. I don't care what anybody says, Seyi Olofinjana's opinion. We underachieved massively. That squad should have done more than we did. Not in terms of effort, because we put in the effort. But again, there's a lot more to playing football than just appearing on the field or playing with 11 wearing green, white, green, which Nigeria didn't give us at the time. Yes, we will say we do a lot of support. All support is not about money. But there's certain small things that should have been put in place. And there were certain things we needed to do as players as well that we didn't do enough. I won't go into it more than that. In comparison to the Super Eagles now, I don't see the caliber of talents that were at play when we played at the moment. But that's when you need coaching. That's when you need a team. That's why it's called a team. We don't all have to be great players. As long as I know what I need to do at certain times, you know what you need to do at certain times, and we all come together and then do the business. So be it. Your Danish teams, your Swedish teams, your Iceland, for example, is a major example. Not great players, but when they play as a team that understands what everyone is doing, and they're surprising people in the Euros. That's what a team needs to be, and that's what we need at the moment. We are not blessed at the moment with the likes of the JJ or coaches and the Canos of this world, no. But we need a coach to then make sure you teach these boys what they need to do. And by the way, let me just say this: it's a great opportunity. We have some wonderful players in the country that needs to be given an opportunity.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So you made over close to 50 appearances for
56 precisely.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, 56.
No, please don't be.
So which of these appearances would you regard as your best? If you look at everything, all of your appearances, which of them was your best?
It doesn't matter what medal I've won. It doesn't matter what games I've played. That first game playing for the Super Eagles of Nigeria remains with me for the rest of my life. It was June the 4th, year 2000. Nigeria played against Malawi and we won 3-2. As a matter of fact, it was the home-based Eagles that played. Why was it special? Just weeks before that game, I was on the TV shouting, watching the Canos of this world play football. And a few weeks afterwards, after a few weeks of training, that was me. Singing the same national anthem, I was watching my heroes play football. Nothing beats that. Nigeria is 200 million people. Why me? So that was God in action. That was that moment. It wouldn't matter how many medals I don't care whether anybody won Champions League. That was the moment to then say, God has favored me, He has blessed me to be playing for this wonderful nation of talented football players littered everywhere. To have been counted worthy, that was enough for me. I could have played that one game and I would be satisfied.
Yeah. So I'll take a quick question from one of our audience now. It says, do you see yourself working with the NFF in any capacity in the future?
I wouldn't mind working with the NFF. As a matter of fact, I think that for me is part of the call. I think I need to sort of give something back. I'm not saying people back home are not knowledgeable. We've got a lot of talented people, knowledgeable people, even in the NFF. But again, if by the virtue of the fact that I've been fortunate enough to have played the number of games I've played in the Premier League, and now work on the other side, and I know what is going on in the modern football on a day-to-day basis, I think I know a little bit I can add to the society. But can I work in just any industry in the NFF? No, I don't want to work just in just any. I want to work in a very, very specific one.
So I'll bring it now that we're on the NFF. So just earlier this week, we had the NFF president go on live Arise on an interview, and then he made mention of the law, the one in Spain, Nigeria, the one in Naira, the one to develop the Nigerian players and all. So, do you think Ross should accept this contract to continue with Nigeria based on his performance so far? If you were in Ross' position, what would you do?
Well, I think you're asking the wrong man. You're asking the wrong man that question, and I say that because if you're talking to me about Nigeria appointing a new manager, then I might be able to sort of speak about his pedigree. But if we're talking about the manager that has been in the country for a number of years, has taken us to the World Cup, has taken us to the Nations Cup, I don't know what the KPIs are. What did the NFF say to Gennett Raw that if you do 1, 2, 3 things, you qualify automatically for a new contract? So why should I then be in the position to then be slating either the NFF or Gennett Raw? It might be that take us to the semi-final of the World Cup will then guarantee you the next contract. As a matter of fact, we put figures next to it. Because that's what we do over here. It's a performance industry. If you don't perform, you don't go forward. It's as simple as that. Mourinho is in Tottenham today. There are certain KPIs. There are certain things he must achieve. If he doesn't, he's off ski. So I'm not privy to those information. So why should I be in the position to be telling you whether Gennett Raw should be rehired or what's the word now? I can't do that.
So just a quick one. Do you think Raw has done well so far? How would you rate him on a scale of 1 to 10?
With the players he's got, I think he's done very well. With the players he's got at his disposal, I think he's managed those players very well. He's gotten the best out of those players, in my opinion. It would have been So go on.
No, go ahead.
I think he's done very well. I think he's done with what is.
Yeah, I have to go back.
Raw has done quite well. He has done quite well with the Super Eagles at this time. So, I mean, in the Super Eagles right now, which of our players do you think is the future of the national team at the current time among all our players?
Without a doubt, Osimhen is one. Osimhen is doing well. As a matter of fact, for a young lad, he's taking on the step. He's taking on the mantle. He's fearless. As a matter of fact, this is more for us as Wolves. To be fair, we looked at him at a particular point in time. We thought about doing a bit of a business on bringing him to Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's how very much I think is done. It's one. Ndidi, for me, I like Ndidi. It's a leader. From Ndidi, I saw in the Taiwo set now, that was a little bit shy, was a little bit unassured. All of a sudden, he's stepped up to the mantle now, and he's doing some wonderful things, even for Leicester.
Interesting. So someone is asking, Tolu is asking a question. He says, how would you compare Nuno's squad versus the current team at Wolves?
Sorry, come again, please.
So Tolu is asking that the current Wolves, in comparison with Nuno's set. Yeah. So how would you compare both teams?
It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game, and it will be very, very difficult to sort of compare. The team I played with, let's not forget, I was again very, very fortunate. I played with Matt Murray. I don't know whether so many know Matt Murray in goal. Julian Lescott, that played for Man City, played for England eventually. I played with Jody Craddock, is another one. I played with Paul Ince, who was a former English captain. I played with Kenny Miller, who was a Scottish international. So we had arrays of stars at the time. It was a team. I was very, very blessed and very, very fortunate to have sort of played with those guys at the time. I've been in the Premier League now. I don't know. Even though the team at the moment, the style, the flair of how they play football these days, football has changed from what it used to be 10 years ago. So it becomes a little bit unfair to sort of make comparison and judgment. But again, let me give it to the Wolves of today. They're doing some wonderful business at the moment, I must say.
So yeah, Odion Igalo, I'm showing you this question. Yeah, he recently joined Manchester United on loan from Shanghai Shenhua, and he's been offered a very incredible amount, £400,000 per week, versus remaining at Manchester United. What would you advise?
It's a question of ambition for Odion Igalo. I don't see any player that would turn the club as big as Manchester United. That money doesn't come into it, because 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, what do you want them to be talking about? You playing for Shenhua, whatever you want to call it, in China, or playing for Manchester United? It's about pedigree. He's going to go into the folklore. He's going to go into the history that the first Nigerian player to play for Manchester United. That, for me, is what we should be discussing, rather than he's getting 20 kobo here and there, or he's getting 40 kobo. Odion Igalo today is blessed. He's a rich man. So it's a career-defining move and consideration, rather than, because you play for Manchester United, or you play for it, you're going to get money anyway. How much money do you need? But come 10 years' time, do you want to be invited back as an ex-Manchester United legend to then come and speak and talk like this, or do you want to go? I don't know. Only Odion can answer that question, but I know what I will be choosing. Again, I'm being a little bit selfish here because I support Manchester United.
Yeah, someone is saying that endorsement and brands will come for him to make up for all of those money. I mean, £400,000 is a whole lot of money.
Absolutely. Well, that's what people are commanding these days, and I wish I'm playing right now. I think I retired too early.
I mean, you also commanded what you needed to command.
Well, I give God all the glory. I'm not doing too badly, am I?
So I'm going to take another question before we call it a wrap from some other guys. So someone said, do you reckon Nigeria is leaning towards relying on foreign trained talents? Yeah. So there is this argument that Nigeria is leaning or relying too much on foreign grown talents other than the boys from Nigeria. What's your take on this? What do you think is the recipe, or what do you think is the solution or the balance to all of it?
Well, it depends on who you mean by Nigeria. Nigeria is a very, very big country, and we have different factions and sectors of people that just to talk sometimes, and some knowledge. Yes, do I want home-based players to sort of play for the Super Eagles? Absolutely. I was a home-based player, and someone gave me a chance as a home base to sort of play for the Super Eagles. So yes, by all means. But in terms of the development in football, where I am at the moment, on a daily basis, it becomes imperative for any club, any coach that takes up the Super Eagles job, that wants to do well, to still continue to pick those players, because they are getting the best of education. Now, what education are we getting back home in Nigeria? Talent is not just enough, let's face it. But what we can do as an administration is make sure that our succession plan becomes a lot better. Now, we're talking about Osimhen now. Who is the next Osimhen that's coming from Nigerian League? Can he begin to train with Osimhen? Can he begin to go to tournament? Can that gradual influx, bringing him into the team, start such that when the time is right for him to sort of start climbing a ladder, that stage is not archaic to him anymore? Let's not forget, Ronaldo, the old phenomenon. He went to the first World Cup he went to, he never played. It was a sightseeing, educational trip and tour for him. The next one, it exploded because it wasn't about the stage at the time for him. It was about performance. So it's not about who is picking local player ahead of the foreign players that play in Europe. Get the best of education. Things change very, very quickly in football. I'm in conference calls almost every day thinking about how we develop. What is working right now? How are we going to move it forward? And we are still back home, still not quite up to scratch with what we're doing with the education we're giving our boys. I go back home, I watch some training sessions sometime, and I'm like, wow, 2020, we're still doing this. And that's what you're dealing with. So the talents are there. Are we helping our coaches get the best of education to then begin to get the best out of these boys to start with, such that when an Osimhen that's in Germany is coming, and he's coming with somebody from Enyimba, for example, they are almost at par. That's and all of a sudden we're talking about Gennaro now. They should give him a contract, they should not give him a contract. But you want to judge him on his performance. He's got to perform, and he's got to get guys that knows this is what modern football is all about. This is what I know these guys know. So when I say let's do this session, they know because they've done it a few times. And if they don't, they have been trained enough to understand that session after explaining it one or two times. And that's what you're dealing with.
So if you're going to advise football academies in Nigeria, do you think we have, someone once said, and the person is here, right here on this chat, right now, he's following up, he said there are no academies in Nigeria. If you're going to advise football academies in Nigeria, what would be your advice?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Again, advice will be very, very important, but again, you need a lot of resources to get a proper academy running. I've been running an academy in Nigeria for 11 years now. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot financially. It takes a lot physically, because if you're going to do all the right things, you need a lot of things. Now, we talk about these guys getting prepared. We talk about coaches. We talk about medical. We talk about sports science, because there are a certain number of hours you need to be trained as an under 14, as an under 16. I've done session with my under 16 boy that plays for Wolves this morning, just on Skype. They connected everybody like we're connecting now. So there are certain things you need to be doing, and if we don't continue to do those things from ages 10, and we want to get it to 18 before we start doing it, when we now leave Nigeria, when we're 19, 20, it's too late. And that's what we're dealing with at the moment. But now for academies that are not government-owned, where do you get the money to sustain it? Personally, I will encourage the NFF to make sure all our football clubs have junior academies. Where you put coaches, at least the money from there can still help give them that education, whatever that education looks like. So this is the best way to go. Grassroots, I've been saying it for a long time, you're only as good as your grassroots. You're only going to be as good as your grassroots. But we are always waiting for somebody to spring up and fight and get somewhere. We want to associate with him. Oh, that boy is playing for Chelsea. It's Nigerian. So let's go and let him come and play for Nigeria. What did he eat 2 years ago? Do you know? You don't. It's a fact.
So someone said here that he wouldn't forgive you for the goal you scored against his faculty in 2001 final.
I can only apologize. But I was there to do a job and I did it. So you got to give it to me.
Okay, so in France says that do you have any Wolves player in France? He's a journalist in France, so he wants to find out if you have any Wolves player in France.
No, not on loan. No. I've got players in Portugal. I've got players in Czech Republic. I've got players in Slovakia. I've got players in Switzerland, and another one in Spain. Yeah, but not France.
So someone says, did you make a 99? Says Seyi combination with Yobo. Okay, Seyi combination with Yobo. What's your thought on future Yobo? Oh, okay. I mean, Joseph Yobo has just been drafted into the coaching crew of the Super Eagles. So what do you make of these ex-internationals begin to come in again and again? So do you think is the way to go?
I think it's a good. I think it's a good development, but again, it depends on what Yobo has been given as a task to do. I'm not very, very sure Yobo has done an awful lot of coaching. I don't even know how certified he is. Certification is nothing as far as I'm concerned. There are so many good coaches in Nigeria that haven't got certification. But again, to be working at that level, you need to have something about you. You need to have done some hours of coaching, in my own opinion. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a good coach. But again, what is the remit that's been given to Yobo? Is it look after our local players such that we begin to get the best ones to help Ghana, such that even if Ghana doesn't stay in the country, you are staying in the country, go and make sure you get the best 20 players in Nigeria that you can then use to supplement the Super Eagles with the foreign. If that is the remit, so be it. But I don't know what Yobo's role is. But be that as it may, it's a good development. At least ex-players, people can then have an association with somebody that has played the game, has captained the country, has served, and all of a sudden is serving in a different capacity.
Yeah. So you talked about Bright a few moments ago. Is he on loan or is he still at Wolves at the moment?
Who?
Bright. Bright and Obakari.
Bright and Obakari, yeah. It's back. It was on loan at Wigan, but it's back it's back with us because he was there till January and we had to pull him back to come and be with the squad.
Interesting. So let's tone it down a bit. So you seem to be like someone who loves to work a lot. So how do you relax? Tell us, how do you relax? Do you travel? Do you read books? Do you just watch TV?
Relaxation. Well, I don't think I know what that word means, but there's a lot of development to be had. There's an awful lot to do. I'm a very, very private person. My spare time I spend with my family. I'm a very, very family man, so to speak. I don't have many friends, and the few friends I have, I speak to them on the phone. Nobody comes to see me in my house. It's not to be proud or anything, but that's just me. I love to spend time with my family. So this is the best time for me. I won't say thank God for Corona. It's not a good thing to be around at the moment. But again, it's giving me a golden opportunity I've not had for years to then sit down with these guys and play with my boys and get the bike out, ride bike, play table tennis and what have you. So.
So right now, teams in the Premier League are considering pay cut for the players. Is Wolves looking in this direction? I mean, you might not want to answer this, but if you choose to answer it,
what's the question? Sorry.
Is Wolves considering pay cuts for the players as well with the effect of coronavirus?
Are they affected? You mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got 2 players that are affected, but they're in submission now, so they're doing really well at the moment. It's actually a player that was on loan in Italy. It's no secret. It's Patrick Cutrone, because of course the rate of infection is high in Italy, but it's doing really well now. Yeah.
So someone is asking, why do you think players eligible to play for Nigeria continue to turn down Nigeria? What can the NFF do to attract these players?
Well, we need to sort of get our standard up to scratch. We are Africans. I've said this. The fact that I live here, the fact that I work here doesn't mean I want us to be Europeans. We will never be Europeans. We are very, very unique in the way we are made as Africans. We're lovely people. We're fun-loving people. And we play our football in a very, very different way. But my take is, if Europe is a destination, then we owe it to ourselves to learn how things are done in Europe so that transition is a little bit smoother. If we're going to play in Nigeria, play for Enyimba, play for Rangers, no problem. Let's learn how to play for Rangers and Enyimba. But if Europe is the destination, we need to know how to play a little bit in Europe before we leave Nigeria.
Someone is saying that we should talk about your lifestyle. That you seem to be a very simple person. You don't like the flashy things. You don't wear gold. Is there a reason why?
I don't know. I've always been like that. To be fair, I've always been like that. Life is simple. Life is what we make it, and it doesn't matter. Money, fame, come and go. You remain yourself. This haircut you see on my head has always been there. Before I started playing for Super Eagles, when I was playing, and even when I retired, you will never see a ring. It doesn't mean I begrudge people that wear earrings. By the way, I mean, they look nice. Fashion is in vogue these days. But life is simple. Let's keep it simple.
Someone is taking us back to 2010. I'm going to take just 2 more questions, and then I think we'll call this a wrap because we're with us for over an hour now. So how does she feel to be dropped from the 2010 World Cup from the Nigerian team? Was he disappointed? Were you disappointed to have been dropped from the 2010 World Cup?
Very, very disappointed. highly disappointed. Disappointed not because I felt it was the right. Like I said earlier, I felt, and I still, up till tomorrow, feel blessed to have been selected out of over 200 million people to be representing Nigeria, to have qualified to be one of the 25, if you like, to represent Nigeria. It's a blessing. It's not a right. And to have done what I've done by the grace of God, to have played the number of games I've played, I will be forever grateful to Nigeria, to Nigerians, to the administrators, to my colleagues that have given me the support. I'm grateful. But again, to have done all I've done, to have worked hard, to have played all the qualifying matches, regardless of events, take me to the World Cup. That should be the icing on the cake. I was ready to walk anyway. I was ready to retire at the time anyway. Hello, are you there?
Yes,
Germany 2006, we missed narrowly to Angola on goal difference. But again, 2010 came around. I not only played all the qualifiers, I captained the few. So what would be the justification? And now all of a sudden, it's not like one Ronaldo just sprung up from somewhere, but you are taking players that are not tested to the World Cup. But again, I bear no grudges with nobody.
Okay, so who was your best coach? If you're going to look at your entire career, who's the best coach that you feel like you played under?
Glenn Hoddle, I would say. Glenn Hoddle, I had Glenn Hoddle very briefly at Wolves. He came after Dave Jones, I think. Glenn Hoddle wasn't the best man manager. Glenn Hoddle tactically was way ahead of his time. Everything we're doing now, Glenn Hoddle started doing 10 years prior. His training methods, his comportments, he brought nutrition in. You had to know what you needed to eat at the time. We went discussing all those things then, but those are the things they brought. We change formation. It's all this nonsense philosophy we play. Football is too tactical for me these days. Yeah, we're playing this system and we play that system come rain or shine. No, we will play 4-4-2. I could be playing on the right of a diamond this week. I could be on the bench. I haven't scored a hat-trick. Because he would tell me, well, yes, that was last week. I don't need you for this game because I'm playing a different system against so. And he will explain why he's doing all those things to make you understand, well, even though you scored 3 goals last week, I don't need you this week. Go on the bench. So we played all different sort of system, and he just broke training down. He made you understand football a little bit better. Some of the things I learned, I wish I learned when I was 12, 13, 14 from back home. Yes, even if I say so on camera live.